All right, welcome to a new episode of the Opening Bid Unfiltered podcast. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Like I always say, this is a podcast that will make you a hell of a lot smarter, period. And you're gonna get really smarter here about leadership.
You may have invited the wrong person.
No, I invited the right person. Hilton CEO Chris Nassetta, who's been the CEO of Hilton for about as long as I've been involved in financial media. So good to see you, Chris.
Oh, now you're making me feel old. Thanks.
Years.
That's a great way to introduce me.
That's 18 years.
18 years, at Hilton, running Hilton, but in the industry, a lot more.
Chris,
Let's say maybe four decades. Thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
This is going to be about you and your career, but I just want to say,
let's make it all about you.
No, I originally met you when I didn't have two nickels to rub together. I was trying to come up in this industry, and you somehow said, "Hey, I'll talk to this guy." I don't know.
By the way, I talk to everybody, particularly people I think are interesting and smart. And I thought the first time we met, you were super interesting and smart, and you had really unique angles, which I remember very distinctly on our business that not a lot of people were asking me about. And so I've enjoyed the relationship. We've, periodically found different ways that we've communicated. We've stayed in touch, talk about cars. I know you got a big love of cars.
I do. One of those ways we have communicated is the first time I stayed at a Home 2 Suites a couple years ago. Yeah. I rented a Home 2 Suites, which of course is the Hilton brand. I was in Detroit. I was visiting Jim Farley and the Ford team. Never heard of Home 2 Suites.
Jim's a great guy.
I'm like, Chris, there's forks in my room. There's a sink and a garbage can. Like, what is this brand all about? But I mean, tell us a little bit about that. Like, where does all these brands? Well, how do you bring them all together?
When I got to the company 18 years ago, we had 8 brands, and they were great brands. But when you really looked deeply into the eyes of our customers, which we do, it wasn't enough brands in order to serve all of their needs everywhere in the world that they want to be. So like my whole attitude from the day I got here was, I want to serve every customer for any need they have anywhere in the world that they want to be within reason. And when you start looking about that, yes, that means dots on, the map all over the world. You can't serve them, in Eastern Europe or throughout Asia or the Middle East or Latin America or Africa if you don't have a hotel there. But it's a lot more complicated than that. It's having the right product that serves, a specific need of the customers. And so, in our case, that can span from like Spark at the premium economy segment all the way up to Waldorf Astoria, like the brand new
just reopened,
sparkling Waldorf Astoria in New York, and everything in between. Home 2 was the result of a whole bunch of exactly what you'd want it to be, customer research. So what was the research that led us to that?
Brian needs a fork.
Brian needs a fork. No, but I won't bore you with the details. Suffice to say, we have a extended stay brand called Homewood Suites, which hopefully you've stayed in, hopefully a lot of folks watching have, and it's a fantastic brand. That is generally at the upper end of extended stay. What do I mean by extended stay? Average length of stay of 5+ days. So people, it's, transient workforce, it's, consultants on location for extended period of times, it's families in transition, it's a whole bunch of different types of needs, but it's a need that is not a typical hotel transient need, which is generally like 1.2 nights to be exact. So the idea of why do you have pots and pans, and why do you have, a place to cook?
Clean.
By the way, I love cleaning up. I do clean up. I love cleaning up. I cook and I clean, which we should come back to because I've been begging my children, so please, children, all my 6 daughters, if I cook, you clean. Right? Or, vice versa. This dad doing both.
We got to get you a podcast.
Dad doing both is really a dead end for me. But in any event, so Home 2, what we found is Homewood Suites performing really well, but what we found is there is a need that customers have at a slightly lower price point. So, Homewood Suites is at the upper end of extended stay, and there was a product that people wanted, but they just couldn't afford Homewood Suites. And so what does that mean? That means we needed to go to work and engineer a product. So it's not like we say, hey, let's figure it out. Somebody will build it. We do a massive amount of research and engineering, and we build the products, and then we test it. So we start in cardboard cutouts of the lobby and the room, and then we have customers go through and see how they feel about it. Then we go to a little bit firmer version of it. Then in warehouses, we'll build actual lobbies and actual rooms. So we get people to come through. We highly engineer based on what the customer wants and what it costs to build, because if it costs too much to build, owners can't afford it and they won't get their returns. And Home 2 was birthed out of that process of delivering something that was, mid-scale in extended stay, so a little bit lower price point than probably 15 to 20% lower price point than Homewood Suites, opened up a broad swath of different kinds of customers that we weren't serving. It's a little bit smaller room module, but it has all the functionality as you've seen, and you've been there, you've been a loyal customer.
I am. I just stayed one.
And it's super efficient to build because of the way we engineered how it's built, the efficiency, the products that go into it, our procurement system. And so I would say like Home 2 Suites is the number one brand we have. We have 25 brands. I love them all, just like I love my 6 daughters. Home 2 Suites is the number one brand in demand we have from owners in the world to build. So we have, many of them, hundreds of them in the United States, hundreds and more in the pipeline, but we now have hundreds of them in China with hundreds more coming in the pipeline. We've just taken it to the Middle East, Europe, Latin America. So Home 2 is a really good example of this network effect. But it's not the only example, right? There's, as I said, we had 8 brands when I got here. We have 25 now. We just launched 3 weeks ago. I'm losing track of time. I've been all over the world.
Track of these brands. They're in 25.
A soft brand called Outset Collection by Hilton. And so it's like, well, what's that? It's different. So it's a collection brand. It's not what we'd say a hard brand. So it's going to be, every one of those will be unique and, very, very different. But the common theme is, they're very, they're in sort of the upper mid-scale, I'd say they're, to use the more common vernacular, they're sort of 3.5 to 4 star, the way most people think about it. But, they're in really unique locations around national parks and other things, and they don't have all the traditional services potentially, like traditional food and beverage or, a gym or that. But they're really great products, super high quality, in great locations. And customers want them.
You're not taking my gym out of my Hilton, are you?
No, they'll be.
Touch my Peloton.
No, we have Pelotons everywhere you go. But Outset's, one of our newest arrivals on the scene. But there've been obviously, going from 8 to 25. There's been a lot of brand development, and again, back to the beginning, it's all about network effect. Like serving any customer for any need they have anywhere in the world they want to be creates a really incredible network effect. So it's not the only reason for our success, but you can only serve customers if you're where they want to be with the product. And then you have to give them a good product that meets the needs. You have to deliver great service, which we do because we are the number one great place to work in the world. We have an exceptional culture. You got to give them great technology. You have to bind it all together with loyalty that's relevant. We just announced today a bunch of enhancements to Hilton Honor. So
after 18 years, you still have this infectious passion about being.
I can smile when I say it because I feel like
I've never not seen you smile. You get mad.
There are times when I have to cook and wash the dishes. I don't smile. My daughters are watching. I'll make sure they see this. But I legitimately feel like I'm the luckiest guy on earth. I love what I do. I love the people I do it with. The places I go are extraordinary. The people I get to interact with, starting with my own team, but all of our partners, everybody, sort of in the local environment, government and otherwise. Like the world's my oyster. I travel 80% of my life all over the world, and it's just like I meet people. And here's the dirty little secret. I like people.
Yeah.
I sort of started in hospitality, summer jobs, because my dad thought, and he was right, it was a good idea. Like if you want to start in something, start at the bottom. So in my case, I always say my career started in the toilet. I was in engineering, plunging a lot of toilets, but then I became a finance guy and was in the development and finance side of the business. But I kept coming back, sort of into hospitality because it's just a magical business. It's a magical business, particularly if you like places and people. And you think about the ecosystem of opportunity that we create. We're going to open 3 hotels. So far this year, we've opened 3 hotels a day. In the last 12 months, we've increased employment in just our little ecosystem, 20,000 jobs.
You just passed 9,000 hotels.
Yeah, we're at like, 3 a day. So we're like 9,300. You got to keep up. Dude, you got to move.
Let me go back, because I was thinking about this before. You are the longest serving CEO that I know. And I know a lot of people. I know it took me a while.
This is the second dig on me being old.
This is a good thing. I didn't get to ask you the last time we talked, because we just got shot out of a cannon. I asked you about profit margins and cash flow. We kept it moving. But what is this secret to longevity? Because in part, as a CEO, you're managing investor expectations. You have to talk to analysts. Yeah. You're dealing with hundreds of thousands of employees. Like, how do you?
It's what I'm saying, passion. You got to really love what you're doing. And so I have a huge amount of passion. I think what we do matters, how we do it, the opportunities we create for people, the looks and what I hear from our teams, those 20,000 people that we just gave a line of sight to a better future just in the last 12 months, let alone the 500,000 that are in our ecosystem. Like, that gives me great joy and great passion to do my part. The other thing I'd say, this is a statement of the obvious, but it's worth stating nonetheless, agility. Like, I've said this to our board 1,000 times, like, what's allowed me to do it and enjoy it is I've sort of been brought up and naturally feel like I'm always in a continuous state of learning. Like, my mother, who I love and is alive and going on 93,
Congrats.
We were never, I was never good enough. I could always do better. And I wake up every day still with that same mentality of like, what can we do better? What can I learn? What can I do different? In terms of how we run the business, but my own leadership brand and my, sort of my style of leadership, what can I do better? And then as the world evolves, and we're going through a really big pivot, I'd be shocked if, I shouldn't be the one to do it, but it'll come out of your mouth at some point with AI, but we had the internet, we've had I always say to my kids, when I went to college, we didn't have computers. So, we've gone through a lot in my time. And I'd say, the underlying thesis or theme of why I feel like I can still do this is just passion and energy and a love for what I do and the business and the people. But also agility, meaning I'm always trying to push myself to learn, and I'm always trying to be quick on my feet and make sure that I'm agile, because these big organizations, like what I inherited 18 years ago, let's just say it was a business that, Hilton sort of invented the business of hospitality as you know it.
And the pina colada.
In the pina colada and the brownie and
hotel rooms.
And Eggs Benedict at the Waldorf and all that. But we weren't kind of in the best place. And so we had to re-inject a lot of new strategy, a lot of energy, rebuild culture. And that's great, but then you got to keep doing it. In other words, if I think about my reinvention and the business reinvention over 18 years, I hope that, I won't write the story, but when you look back on it, it's been passion, constant state of learning and being and adapting and being agile. And, whether it's bad things like the Great Recession and figuring out not only how to survive it, but to make yourself better. COVID, we're a much better business, even though that was horrifically
It's crazy that you
hard.
led a business like Hilton through the great financial crisis, COVID.
And we are a better business, okay? The internet revolution, the other, crises, moments, now the AI revolution, and all of those, if you sort of get in this pattern of what got me, I say this all the time again, in the, grossly oversimplistic, but it happens to be true, and I think it's a trap a lot of leaders can get into, and because it's a natural human trap. What gets you from A to B it never is what gets you from B to C. Mm-hmm. And so that's a simple way of saying agility, adaptability. That's the key to longevity, because listen, human nature is all right, I got from A to B, I'm successful, I got there, I'm at the top of the heap. So obviously the way I'm doing things and what I do in my own style, that's good, right? It's cool. Yeah. I'm great. Well, not really, right? That might have worked for that period of time and under that set of circumstances, and then the world is throwing all sorts of things at you. Like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And when you're running big businesses or life generally, you get punched in the face a lot, not to be crass. And so whether that's a crisis like the pandemic, where you get punched in the face 100 times in our industry, or it's an opportunity, but the one that has risks, like the internet, revolution, or now the AI revolution. You have to be in a mindset of always being willing to understand what you don't know, learn, open your mind, and have agility, and make sure that you are managing and modifying your organization to be fit for the journey from B to C, not the one you just came on from A to B.
All right, hang with us, Chris. We're cooking with gas here. I'm going to go off for a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Opening Bid Unfiltered here at the NASDAQ in Times Square. Having a chat with one of my favorite CEOs.
And we are definitely unfiltered.
And you're just not like a CEO. You're just I really enjoyed talking to. Hilton CEO Chris Nassetta. Before I want to get into the business of Hilton a little bit, I also am thinking back to things I have not asked you in the past, just in case I don't talk again for whatever reason.
That sounds ominous.
No, it's all good.
Are we beefing? You're not going to talk?
No, you never know. But you got the CEO job, if I did my math, when you were 44 years old. So around the same age where I am
was
now.
Just turning 45.
How did you? I mean, you were still creating a new family. I mean, you had all these things going on. What was that? What were those early days like for you, and how did you balance all?
I'd say the early days were, equal part nerve-wracking, crazy intense, and at the same time, massively energizing. I mean, and the best way to think about it is, I'll go back and tell you what I felt in the moment, and I'll be honest about it. I will tell you when I look back on it, I look back at my first 2 years, and I'm pretty objective. I know there was a lot going on, a lot. But when I look back on it, it brings me joy, meaning back to this continuous state of learning, agility, figuring things out, intellectual stimulation. It was off the charts. And so when I look back at it, it was crazy, fun, and exciting. In the moment, it was crazy, fun, and exciting, but there was a lot of stress. So I mean, think about it. I'm airlifted in. I moved my whole family, my wife and 6 little kids, mid-year. Have to get them all in schools in LA. My wife, who's from a small town in Arkansas, is we're now the Beverly Hillbillies. And we're living in Bel Air. I mean, it's literally, they could have made
it was on the West Coast.
They could have done a sitcom about this crazy thing. And we go there and it's I'm shot out of a cannon. I mean, the company's 3 times bigger today, than it was. But it was big. We had 3,000 or 4,000 hotels in 120 countries. We sort of invented the business. Blackstone bought it. I've had a 30-year relationship with them. They're extraordinary partners. But they wanted, we all had a vision of we can take this thing that we see here and we can inject it with a lot of life and energy, a better strategy, better culture, and really have this company lead the industry as it had for so many decades, but maybe hadn't in that same way in the 2 or 3 decades before that. And so what does that mean? That means I've got people in 120 countries. I'm trying to learn where the bathroom is,
Really young guy.
Yeah, I'm young. I've got 6 little kids. I moved my wife out there. They're all athletes. They're all out of sports. I can't get them in any schools anywhere because it's mid-year. My wife's stressing out. Blackstone, who are fabulous, but they're demanding. I'm having to figure the business out.
John Gray.
I love John Gray. I was just with John last night. I love John at their CEO event, but. I'm running around the world, I've got to figure this thing out. So I'm traveling, by the way, still to this day, I travel 80% of the time I did then. And so there was a lot going on, but the whole process of discovery and peeling the layers of the onion back to figure out the underwriting thesis that Blackstone and I had on why to buy it, because everybody thought Blackstone at that time had way overpaid for it. Obviously they didn't and I didn't, or they wouldn't and I wouldn't have done it. But as we started to peel that onion back and figure out the good, the bad, and the ugly, it just was incredibly exciting and intellectually stimulating. And even with all of the stress and the family, all of that going on at one time, again, I have unbelievable memories. In the moment, well, there were definitely some stressful moments, particularly as we started then going into the
world ended.
The world ended, and we were an LBO. We obviously survived and prospered, but But it was super thrilling, and I would never have chosen a different path. And even for my family, and I know this is more the financial community, like if you asked any of my kids, you asked my wife, they would say that it was one of the best times in their life, because we became like our own little bubble for a period of time. Like I've lived in Washington, D.C. The kids had their grandparents, their cousins, all of the things that are really nice to have around you. That create like a cocoon, and all of a sudden we ripped them out of the cocoon and we put them out there, and it's just us. So yeah, I'm traveling, but I'm getting home. I'm doing whatever I got to do to get home on weekends. And like the family time, even though I was under a lot of pressure and trying to figure this out and traveling all over the world, I have a very fond memory of those times of just like the family unit being super compact. I remember, I thankfully don't have a lot of disagreements with my wife. We don't fight a lot, but I can't think in that 3-year period that we had a disagreement on anything. It was like, there was no time for disagreement. We're all like, we're all in. We got to figure out the family. I got to figure out the business. She was hyper supportive of me doing this. She was all in from the very beginning. And so, yeah, it was stressful, but it was fun. And it was the perfect story of, like, again, being in a constant state of learning, making sure you're agile, because we were figuring things out, and we thought one thing, and then you peel the onion back and you find another, and then Mike Tyson punches you in the face for the Great Recession. And you're like, all of a sudden we're an LBO with a lot of debt, and the world goes awry.
What was your scariest day? During the financial.
There was a moment that I
or COVID, either one.
Yeah, I would say the scariest moment was like at the very worst of the Great Recession, and the difference in that and COVID was we had we were much lower leverage and all that. COVID was worse technically because we went from like 55 billion in revenue to like close to zero. And as I told our board at that time, like, I've done all sorts of downside analysis. I'm a finance guy, from way back when. I did not do a zero revenue model. So that was really hard, but we had low leverage. We were in very good company. We had done all the right things in terms of building resiliency, both culturally, to be able to have our people stick together and not lose their nerve. And then from a balance sheet financial point of view, we had massive liquidity, no maturities. And so, we had built resiliency in a way that allowed us to get through that. I mean, it was stressful, but allowed us to get through it very easily. When we were private, I mean, by definition, it was an LBO. It wasn't, it was just the way those things work. It wasn't nearly as dramatic in the downdraft, but we had a lot more debt. And that was a lot more stressful. And when I started reading the headline, when Blackstone did this deal, it was the largest private equity investment ever made, I think $6.5 billion. They wrote off 70% of it. I remember going in front of the stage of the Waldorf Astoria, going in front of all their investors. I talked about it last night from that very stage, and John Gray said, all right, go out and go get them, like explain to them why this is all gonna work out. And I would say that was sort of the low point, meaning, they had written off the bulk of the investment, the news, the journal, everybody, other period.
Not Yahoo Finance.
Yeah, and you were probably writing about this is going to be the biggest private equity blowout of all time. For the record, okay, it ended up being the largest private equity, I think stands to this day, of all time. And importantly, since our IPO, we performed in like 75th, 80th percentile of the S&P 500. So it all worked out, but it was, it was exciting, energizing, and definitely moments of stress.
On the business of today, so I recently talked to Delta CEO Ed Bastian. I'm sure you know.
He's a good friend.
The high end of his business doing well. He's putting in more premium seats, redoing his planes. I talked to restaurant CEOs. Business, not so great. Like, what is the consumer? Like, where are they right now?
I think it's what you're hearing. It's just what's implied in the question. It's definitely sort of the K economy everybody's talking about, which makes sense. I mean, if you think about where the markets are and the high end of the business for us is doing well in the same way that you see it in airlines and other forms of luxury. And then I'd say mid and everything else is doing less well. Why? Because the markets lately, if you own financial assets, you've been a beneficiary. I mean, I don't where the markets are.
Some NVIDIA, you're having
the market. Well, not in the last few days, but the markets have been pretty kind to people that own financial assets. If you own real estate assets, the market, homes, the market's been pretty kind to financial and hard assets. Where if you look at over an extended period of time, you've seen middle class real wage growth having been negative. And so the wages went up a lot, but so did the cost of living. And that's the struggle you're seeing, and inflation is definitely in check. Okay, but that doesn't mean prices are coming down really, maybe with the exception of gas. It just means the rate at which they're increasing is slowing. And yet, so is wage growth slowing. And so, the ultimate answer, and I do have a view that actually is optimistic, and it's my view, so it's worth exactly what you're paying, because last I checked, you didn't pay me.
This is a free podcast.
This is a free podcast. He's not paying me for that.
I'm not paying him.
But I, my own belief is that you're going to see this K economy sort of come together. Why? Okay, number one, inflation is coming down materially. And if you think about the largest input to inflation, which is housing, it's on a lag. And that is definitely, if you talk to folks in rental housing rates, inflation rates are coming way down. So I think you're going to continue to see structural inflation come down. I mean, there may be moments and tariffs and things, but broadly, inflation's coming down. Interest rates have already come down. I think they'll continue to come down. Like how much we can debate, I don't think we're going back.
You're not running for the Fed, right? That's not your next game.
I know, I'm not. No, I'm not qualified.
Okay.
I do have views, but I'm not sharing.
Fair.
So I think that's going on as a backdrop. You have tax reform that got done, that puts us in a position where you don't have risk, and it's business friendly, and you've got incentives built into it, which is bonus depreciation, full depreciation on lots of forms of investment. You have a significant movement towards a deregulatory environment broadly. That means, permitting, financial services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's good because that means in a lower rate environment, you're likely to have lower capital standards that is going to allow the banking community and not only allow, but require them to put more money to work. Against all of that, you have a huge investment cycle that is sort of unwinding and starting to flow. And I know everybody, and they're right, talks about the AI complex and everything that goes with it, what adds up to trillions of dollars out of the tech world and the arms race there, but then everything that goes to support it, data centers, no data. You don't have AI without data centers. You don't have data centers without energy.
Are your Hilton's packed next to data centers?
Yeah,
I mean, they got it packed, right?
Yes, they are. So but Brian, people don't talk about this a lot. During the prior administration, you also had if you added all the pieces together, you almost had almost $1.6 trillion infrastructure bill. Very little of that, less than 20% of that's been spent. You had an $800 billion CHIPS Act to get reshoring of that form of manufacturing. Like hardly any of that, actually, the money has gone out the door. And so when you put all of those things together, now, does the AI trade get overcooked? You're more qualified to judge that. Do we end up with too many data centers and too much energy? Maybe, but we're nowhere near. We're at sort of the tip of the iceberg on those things. So as I look at it, and I'll come back to where I started, in the next 2 or 3 years, it takes time for these things, the deregulatory environment to hit. These investments take time to plan and get in motion and permit and those things. Over the next 2 or 3 years, it's hard for me not to lift way up above the noise and not see that that's going to be very good for our economy, that is going to broadly increase growth in the United States. And importantly, to your question about, the high end, everything else, again, my view, it will be a much more balanced growth because all of that investment cycle, last I checked, requires the middle class.
Yeah.
All the folks on Wall Street aren't going to go build power plants, and they're not going to build the data centers and the bridges and the highways and the chip factories. That's the middle class getting in the game. And by the way, that's super good for our business. So if you think about our business, last comment.
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Last comment, the highest correlation over time and eternity to demand growth in hotel room nights is NRFI, non-residential fixed investment. My own view is over the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see a very meaningful pickup in the growth of NRFI, and that means people are moving all over the country to do things, and that is very much going to benefit the mid-market. And so it doesn't mean that the high end has to collapse. It just means these two are going to converge together, in my opinion.
We started this mentioning Ford CEO Jim Farley, and when I talked to him, he's like, Brian, I have thousands of service bays left open across the country. He's like, I can't get mechanics in. Can you find people to vacuum the floors, to work in your kitchens? Like, how difficult is that right now?
It's not easy, but it's not on the top 3 problems I have. I mean, if you look at coming out of COVID, really in like 21 through 23, it was definitely top 3, maybe top 1. We just couldn't get the people. There were a lot of things, policy issues where people are getting paid more money to stay home. So turns out people are smart. Like, if you pay me more to stay home, I'm not
going to go to work.
Why work? Right? Get some potato chips and sit on the couch. But now, I mean, we've sort of gotten past the supercharged, unemployment benefits on steroids, all of which made sense, by the way, early in COVID. That made, I think, less sense as you got deeper into it. But when that sort of subsided and people got, back in the normal rhythms of life, we have been able to find the talent. Now, there's some jobs that are harder. Housekeeping, culinary in the kitchens have always been hard. And in some regions, they're harder than others. The southern, Florida markets can be hard in some ways. But broadly, I'm with our owner community all the time, our franchise community. Obviously, we operate a ton of hotels. It's not a recurring thing. Like, we can generally get the people that we need to get to do what we do.
I recently stayed at the, I don't really go anywhere, but I gave
home
myself a treat. A home too, but I stayed at the Great Wolf Lodge over at Fox. It was random. It was nice. I wanted to go to the Wolf
Owned
Park.
by Blackstone.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. So I went there, and I went into my room with a.
How many kids do you have?
I have none. I went there.
What were you doing? Were you on the water slide by yourself?
Yeah. Well.
By the way,
can we take this offline?
It's a little creepy.
I like the water park.
As a father of 6, I'm not sure you going down the water slide.
I hung at the bar. I went down the slides. It was all cool. But I went into my room with a red bracelet. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I still doing this? When does AI reinvent my travel experience? Like, where should I see reinvention?
It's happening.
It's happening. It's like, why do I have to scan my wrist? I'm nothing against Blackstone. Love Blackstone. Why do I got to scan my wrist?
It's happening. So you should do it like everywhere you go. I assume, given you're a regular customer, you have the Hilton Honors app, right?
I do. Yeah.
All right. So in it, you can message us, right? You can message any hotel you're in. You're messaging. Mm-hmm. Try it. We're using it. And we're connecting the dots in really interesting ways. And I would say, like a lot of these things, we're at the tip of the iceberg. So there's really 3 areas. Obviously, like everybody, there's all sorts of productivity opportunities that come with AI, both corporately, but most importantly in the hotels, just to, do things more efficiently, more effectively, with the use of more information properly managed. There's all sorts of opportunities in the distribution space. If you think about it, like with, you've had, most of our business, thankfully, 80% of it is direct business, but where you have other intermediaries, now you have lots of opportunities to continue to build much more direct relationships with customers. So we see the distribution landscape as beneficial and ultimately helping us drive down the content creation and overall distribution costs. And the most exciting part of it is what you're talking about is CX, customer experience. It's taking all of this data. Okay, we've always had gobs of data.
Yeah, you know what I do.
But we know everything you do, Brian.
Yeah. I'm not being bullshit.
I don't know.
I stayed at Home 2 Suites.
I don't know, like that bathing suit you were wearing on the water slide.
The Great Wolf Lodge is very nice.
The little kids, it was a little creepy for the kids.
There were other adults there, okay.
Okay, all right. But the most exciting thing is like taking this data and making it actionable. So it's like not just that we have data or you can tell us what you want, but the systems are all interconnected to take that data and get people to fix a problem you have or give you, create an opportunity that you're looking for. And that's taking the data you're giving us, it's taking unstructured data with partners that we have and actually making it systematically actionable by our team. So in the end, like, we're always going to be a business of people serving people like that. But the question is, how do we enable those people? Right? How do you create tools where when you're on property, everything you want and need is so easy. It's, in the palm of your hand, you can customize your experience. And that, in our world, is how we win. The alpha is mass customization. I hate using the word mass, but it gives it the right context, which is we're serving 250, 300 million people a year. So in theory, it's like, well, you could never customize that. That's not true. Like, at every different price point, at a Waldorf in New York, it'll be hyper customized. At your home too, it can still be customized because you can communicate with us. While we don't have as big a team there, we have the systems, the information, the ability to action your request and create a process and a systematic approach to giving you exactly what you want when you want it. And that's game changing because in our world, when you're doing things at scale, it's all about it's about the people in the end, as I said, but the people have to be enabled with tools that allow them to do what they need to do the right way all the time.
As someone literally building mock hotels and warehouses and out of various cardboard boxes, whatever it is, like, what's the next biggest change in the hotel experience I will notice, you think?
That's it. The one. It is that
physically.
It is that. I think it's problem resolution. The single, it's been time and eternity. People have studied problems and resolution, and it turns out that historically, and it's true to this day, that you build more loyalty with a customer when you have a problem and you solve it well than if you never had a problem. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Because then people think, if I never had a problem, they go away, they don't think much about it. If I had a problem and you've managed it really well, you think, hey, wow, they care about me.
I just need my receipt printed out the door.
They care about me, they're really good at this. And so the use to enable our team members and to have the technology built into all of our infrastructure and systems that allows us to resolve problems in the moment is the biggest game changer. Rather than, Brian, we're sorry you had, we don't have the water slides. We're sorry you had a bad experience, and here's a million, honors points. We're not making up for it and begging forgiveness. We're in the moment solving your problems. And you have now the means, if you choose to use it, and can message with us very simply any issue you want us to resolve. So test it.
2 more if I can, because I know you have thousands of hotels to go out and run and oversee. What?
9,003.
9,000, yeah, 3 day. How much longer do you want to be doing this?
I want to do it a lot longer.
Do you have a marker? I need to hit 25 years.
No, I have no marker. I mean, here's my marker. And I said this before. I want to do it for a long time. I mean, there's a point at which I shouldn't do it, right? Where it'll be, I should hand the reins off to somebody that's younger and more energy and a lot of passion. But at the moment, I still feel
you're rocking, dude.
I feel like I'm young. I've got a lot of passion. I know a lot about the business. I think I'm able to be quite effective. I love the sort of the constant state of learning. I don't have my head in the sand. I said I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I love the job, love the people. So my plan is to do it for a lot longer. In the end, I'm building incredible succession inside our company so that at that time, many years in the future where I need to ride off in the sunset, it'll be a good day for everybody.
Last one, and I think I'm like, I got to ask him about this finally. The black Porsche. I didn't ask you this before. I'm checking all the boxes.
I have PTSD.
I think it was Fortune wrote this story a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Chris had a Porsche? I didn't know.
I did.
We'll end here. Tell us about it. Worst financial mistake you ever made, right?
It was the worst. Okay. Yeah, I had just broken up with my girlfriend. More factually, she had broken up with me. And I was sort of licking my wounds, and I was coming home from a friend's house. We had been at his parents'. I was 21 or whatever years old. And I was driving by a used car lot, and I was not happy, and I saw this beautiful, shiny, used Porsche. I had no money. I drove in, I said, how much? I don't even remember. It was like $19,000 or something. And I had some money in my savings account. They'd give me a loan. So I borrowed money, used every penny I had, and I bought it. And for like 15 minutes, it made me feel good. I got it home. I was ratting around in this thing. And then within literally weeks, and I had it checked out, within weeks, things started. I mean, things I now know about cars. Like, I took it in, if something was, rattling. I said, your steering rack is out. I was like, oh, great, fix it. They're like, that's $3,000 or something. I'm like, $3,000? I don't have a penny. Like, and then there was one thing after another until I finally just like, uncle, I finally sold it.
Do you still have it?
No, I don't have it. I'm into really basic cars, like that start and get me where I need to go. So that was the last Porsche. Nothing against Porsche. I know you have one. They're great cars.
No, I don't have a Porsche. I had a Corvette. I got a Corvette.
Oh, Corvette, right? You should be.
I've been saving my pennies, man.
Yeah. No Porsche. It's a great car, but I can't. It broke me. It broke my spirit.
It was so really good to see you. Lastly, is it really weird they went to the Great Wolf Lodge? Is it strange? Like,
No, by yourself.
No, I don't want my girlfriend. I want my girlfriend. Like, it was.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you didn't tell me that part. All right, yeah.
You're the hotel expert. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, it just opened up in Jersey. It was beautiful.
Right, it's really normal.
Yeah, okay.
Really
all right.
For couples without kids. I'm kidding. Yeah, super normal.
It was so good to see you. I thank you for doing this. I thank you for giving me a time of day when I was essentially nobody eons ago. Not that I'm anybody now, but I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, you are. You're a big guy. You're
the man. Chris Nassetta, thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it for the latest episode of Opening Bid Unfiltered. Love this episode. Share this one with all your friends. Hit me with all those likes on YouTube and wherever else you may find it. See you later.